Maya Rodriguez pushed through the glass doors of City General Hospital at 6:45 p.m., 15 minutes before her night shift officially began. Her sneakers, worn thin from countless hours on hospital floors, squeaked softly against the polished linoleum. She clutched a thermos of coffee that would have to last her through the next 12 hours, maybe longer if someone called in sick again. The familiar smell of disinfectant and floor wax greeted her as she hurried toward the elevator. Maya had been working at City General for 3 years now, but lately every day felt like she was climbing an impossible mountain. At 28, she looked older than her years, with dark circles under her brown eyes that no amount of concealer could hide. "Maya, thank goodness you're here early," called Janet, the evening shift supervisor, rushing past with a clipboard. "Room 302 is asking for you specifically. Mrs. Patterson refuses to take her medication from anyone else." Maya smiled despite her exhaustion. Mrs. Patterson, an 82-year-old woman recovering from hip surgery, had become one of her favorite patients. The elderly woman reminded Maya of her own mother, with the same stubborn streak and gentle humor. After quickly changing into her scrubs in the staff locker room, Maya made her way to room 302. The pale blue walls of the hallway seemed to blur together as she walked, her mind already calculating how many hours she would need to work this week to make ends meet. "There's my favorite nurse," Mrs. Patterson said with a weak smile as Maya entered the room. "I told them I wouldn't take those pills from anyone but you. You're the only one who explains what each one does." Maya sat on the edge of the bed and patiently went through each medication, explaining how they would help with pain and prevent infection. She had learned early in her career that patients felt more comfortable when they understood their treatment. It took an extra few minutes she didn't really have, but seeing Mrs. Patterson's worried expression soften made it worthwhile. "You're such a good girl, Maya," the older woman said, patting her hand. "Your mama raised you right. If only she knew," Maya thought. Her mother, Carmen, was the reason she pushed herself so hard. 3 months ago, Carmen had been diagnosed with diabetes complications that required regular dialysis treatments. The insurance covered some of it, but not nearly enough. Maya had already taken on extra shifts, but it still wasn't enough to cover the mounting medical bills. The night flew by in a blur of medication rounds, chart updates, and patient check-ins. Maya barely had time to sip her coffee, let alone eat the granola bar she had packed for dinner. Around 2 a.m., during a rare quiet moment, she finally sat down at the nurse's station to catch up on paperwork. Her phone buzzed with a text message from her mother. "Mija, don't worry about me. Focus on yourself. Love you." Maya's heart sank. She knew that tone even in a text message. Her mother only told her not to worry when there was definitely something to worry about. She quickly dialed home. "Mama, what's wrong?" Maya whispered, stepping into an empty patient room for privacy. "It's nothing serious, Mija. Just got a call from Dr. Williams' office today. They want to discuss some new treatment options." Maya closed her eyes, leaning against the wall. New treatment options usually meant expensive treatment options. What kind of treatments? "Some kind of procedure to help with the kidney function. The doctor says it could really help, but..." Carmen's voice trailed off. "But insurance won't cover it all," Maya finished. $8,000, Carmen said quietly. "But Maya, I don't want you to stress about this. We'll figure something else out." $8,000. Maya's stomach dropped. She was already working 60-hour weeks and living on instant noodles and peanut butter sandwiches. Her bank account had exactly $437 and rent was due in 2 weeks. "Mama, you're getting that procedure. Don't argue with me." "Maya, sweetheart, where are we going to get that kind of money?" Maya looked around the empty patient room, at the monitors and IV stands, at the place where she spent most of her waking hours trying to help people feel better. "I'll figure it out, Mama, I promise." After hanging up, Maya sat in the darkness for a few minutes trying to think. She could pick up more overtime shifts, but there were only so many hours in a week. She could try to find a second job, but when would she sleep? She had already sold her car last year and took the bus to work to save money. The rest of her shift passed in a daze. Maya went through the motions of caring for her patients, but her mind kept running numbers. $8,000 plus her mother's regular medical expenses, plus rent, plus groceries, plus her own student loan payments from nursing school. By 6 a.m., when the day shift nurses started arriving, Maya felt like she had been awake for days. She gave her report to the incoming nurse, gathered her things from the locker room, and walked to the bus stop in the early morning darkness. The bus ride home took 45 minutes, giving Maya time to think about her options. She could ask for an advance on her paycheck, but that would just push the problem to next month. She could look into a loan, but her credit wasn't great after struggling to pay bills for the past year. Maya's apartment was a small one-bedroom place in a neighborhood that wasn't the safest but was what she could afford. She had given the bedroom to her mother and slept on a pull-out couch in the living room. Carmen was still sleeping when Maya quietly let herself in. She made a cup of coffee with the last of her grounds and sat at the small kitchen table, staring at the stack of medical bills that seemed to grow every week. Her mother had raised her alone after Maya's father left when she was 10. Carmen had worked 2 jobs to put Maya through school, never complaining, always encouraging. Now it was Maya's turn to take care of her mother, but she felt like she was failing. Maya picked up her phone and scrolled through job websites, looking for part-time positions she could do on her days off. Dog walking, house cleaning, tutoring, anything to bring in extra money. But even with a second job, $8,000 still seemed impossible. She was so tired that the numbers on her phone screen started to blur together. Maya put her head down on the kitchen table just for a minute, just to rest her eyes. When she woke up 3 hours later, her neck was stiff and Carmen was making breakfast in the kitchen. "Mija, you should have gone to bed," her mother said softly. "You're working too hard." Maya straightened up, trying to work the kink out of her neck. "I'm fine, Mama. Just thinking about some things." Carmen set a plate of scrambled eggs in front of her daughter. Real eggs, not the powdered kind Maya usually bought because they were cheaper. "Mama, we can't afford—" "Hush," Carmen said firmly. "My daughter works all night taking care of other people. The least I can do is make sure she eats something good." As Maya ate the eggs, which tasted better than anything she had eaten in weeks, she made a silent promise to herself and to her mother. Somehow, some way, she was going to make sure Carmen got that procedure, even if she had to work every hour of every day, even if she had to give up everything else. She wasn't going to let her mother suffer when there was something that could help. She just had to figure out how. Maya had barely gotten 4 hours of sleep when her phone rang at 2 p.m. She fumbled for it on the coffee table next to her pull-out couch, squinting at the bright screen. "Maya, thank God you answered." It was Janet from the hospital and she sounded frantic. "I know you're not scheduled until tonight, but we need you here now. There's been a massive accident on Highway 95 and we're getting slammed." Maya sat up, instantly alert despite her exhaustion. "How many casualties?" "At least 15 coming in, maybe more. 3 of our day shift nurses called in sick and we're already understaffed." "Can you get here?" Maya was already reaching for her uniform. "Give me 20 minutes." The bus ride to the hospital felt endless as Maya watched ambulance after ambulance race past in the opposite direction. Her stomach growled loudly, reminding her that she hadn't eaten since the eggs her mother made that morning. She rummaged through her purse and found a packet of crackers left over from last week's lunch. When she arrived at City General, the emergency department looked like a war zone. Paramedics rushed in and out with patients on gurneys. Doctors shouted orders, and the usually organized chaos of the hospital had turned into something much more intense. "Maya, room 4, Janet called out the moment she saw her. "Car accident victim, multiple injuries, Dr. Kim will fill you in." Maya didn't even have time to put her things in her locker. She tied her hair back quickly and rushed to room 4, where Dr. Kim was working on a man who looked to be in his mid-30s. His expensive business suit was torn and blood-stained, and he was unconscious. "What do we have?" Maya asked, immediately checking the monitors and IV lines. "David Chen, 35 years old," Dr. Kim said, without looking up from the patient. "Massive internal bleeding, possible ruptured spleen. We've given him 2 units of blood, but his pressure is still dropping. The problem is he's AB negative." Maya's heart sank. AB negative was one of the rarest blood types, found in less than 1% of the population. "How much do we have in the blood bank?" "That's the problem," Dr. Kim said grimly. "We used the last 2 units on him. There's another AB negative patient from the same accident coming in, and the blood center says they won't have more until tomorrow morning." Maya looked at the man on the bed. Even unconscious and pale, she could see he was probably someone important, based on his expensive watch and the way his clothes fit. But right now he was just another patient who needed help. "Doctor," she said quietly, "what's his current blood level?" "Dangerously low. We need at least 2 more units to stabilize him, or we're going to lose him." Maya stared at the monitors showing David's vital signs. His blood pressure was dropping and his heart rate was climbing. She had seen this pattern too many times before. Without more blood, he had maybe an hour. Dr. Kim, Maya said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. I may be negative. Dr. Kim looked up sharply. Maya, when was the last time you ate? You look exhausted. I'm fine, Maya lied. The crackers on the bus had been her only food since morning, and she had been living on coffee and determination for weeks. How quickly can we do this? Maya, I can't ask you to— You're not asking. I'm volunteering. Maya was already rolling up her sleeve. How long will it take to get the blood ready? Dr. Kim studied her face for a moment, then nodded. 30 minutes to draw and process. But Maya, you need to eat something first, and you'll need to rest afterward. I'll rest when he's stable, Maya said firmly. Within minutes, Maya found herself in the blood donation room next to the ER. The technician, a young man named Tyler, kept looking at her with concern as he prepared the equipment. Ma'am, are you sure you're feeling okay? You look pretty tired. Maya managed a weak smile. Just a long day. But there's a patient who needs this blood more than I need it right now. As the needle went into her arm and her blood began flowing into the collection bag, Maya closed her eyes and tried not to think about how dizzy she was starting to feel. She focused instead on her mother's voice from their phone call the night before, about doing what was right even when it was hard. You're giving a pint, Tyler explained. That's about 10% of your blood volume. Make sure you drink plenty of fluids and don't do any heavy lifting for the rest of the day. Maya almost laughed. Heavy lifting was basically her job description, but she nodded anyway. When the donation was complete, Tyler handed her a juice box and some cookies. Eat these and sit here for at least 15 minutes. I need to get back to my patient, Maya protested, trying to stand up. The room spun slightly and she sat back down hard. Ma'am, you need to rest. Doctor's orders. Maya forced herself to drink the juice and eat the cookies even though her stomach felt queasy. Through the window, she could see the continued chaos in the ER. More ambulances were arriving, and she knew they needed every nurse they could get. After 10 minutes, Maya felt steady enough to stand. Tyler looked skeptical but didn't try to stop her as she made her way back to room 4. Dr. Kim was just hanging the first unit of her blood when she walked in. Maya, you should be resting. How is he? Maya asked, ignoring the doctor's concern and checking David's monitors. Better. His pressure is coming up already. Dr. Kim looked at her seriously. This blood you donated probably just saved his life. Maya felt a strange mix of exhaustion and satisfaction as she watched the monitor numbers improve. Her blood, the same blood that carried her worries about money and her fears about her mother's health, was now keeping this stranger alive. Has anyone contacted his family? Maya asked, adjusting David's IV line. His assistant is on the way. Apparently, he has a young daughter. She's his only family since his wife died a couple of years ago. Maya's heart clenched. A single father, just like her mother had been a single parent. She couldn't imagine what his daughter was going through right now. Probably scared and confused and waiting for news about whether her dad would be okay. For the next several hours, Maya stayed close to David's room, checking his vital signs every 30 minutes and making sure he was comfortable. The second unit of her blood had stabilized him completely, and by evening his color was starting to return to normal. Around 8 p.m., a small girl with dark hair and frightened eyes arrived with an older woman, who looked like she might be a nanny or babysitter. The girl couldn't have been more than 8 years old, and she kept asking everyone she saw if her daddy was going to be okay. Maya knelt down to the girl's level in the waiting room. Are you David's daughter? The little girl nodded, tears in her eyes. Is my daddy going to die? Nobody will tell me anything. Your daddy is going to be fine, Maya said gently. He was hurt in an accident, but the doctors fixed him up. He's sleeping right now, but he's getting stronger every hour. Can I see him? Maya looked at the woman with her, who nodded gratefully. Let me check with the doctor, okay? But I think we can arrange that. As Maya walked back toward David's room to speak with Dr. Kim, she felt the exhaustion hitting her like a wave. She had been running on adrenaline and determination. But now that the crisis was over, her body was reminding her that she had given blood on an empty stomach after working 60 hours that week. But seeing that little girl's face light up with hope made every dizzy moment worth it. 3 days had passed since the accident, and Maya had been assigned to David's care for every shift. Dr. Kim said it was because she knew his case best. But Maya suspected it was also because the other nurses were swamped with the ongoing influx of patients from the multi-car accident. David had been drifting in and out of consciousness for the past 2 days, but his vital signs were strong and steady. Maya found herself checking on him more frequently than her other patients, though she told herself it was just because he was the most critical case on her floor. On Wednesday morning, as Maya was adjusting his IV medication, David's eyes fluttered open for the first time since the accident. He looked confused and tried to speak, but his throat was too dry. "Don't try to talk yet," Maya said softly, reaching for a cup of ice chips. "You've been unconscious for 3 days. Let me get you some ice to help with your throat." David accepted the ice chips gratefully, and after a few minutes he managed to whisper, "Where am I?" "City General Hospital. You were in a car accident on Highway 95. Do you remember anything?" David closed his eyes, thinking. "I was driving back from a board meeting. It was raining and there was a truck." His eyes snapped open with sudden panic. "Lily, my daughter!" "Is she okay? She wasn't in the car, was she?" No, Maya said quickly, placing a gentle hand on his arm. "Your daughter is fine. She's been here every day waiting for you to wake up. She's at school right now, but I can call your assistant to let her know you're awake." The relief on David's face was so profound that Maya felt her own eyes getting misty. She had seen many patients wake up over the years, but something about this man's immediate concern for his daughter touched her heart. "Thank you," David said, his voice getting stronger. "I don't remember much, but I have this feeling that that you did something important. The nurses keep saying you saved my life." Maya felt her cheeks warm. "I just did my job. You needed blood, and I happened to have the right type. Any nurse would have done the same thing." David studied her face carefully. "AB-negative blood isn't common. What are the odds that my nurse would have the exact blood type I needed?" "Pretty slim," Maya admitted. "But sometimes things just work out the way they're supposed to." Before David could respond, a small tornado burst through the hospital room door. Lily had arrived straight from school, still wearing her backpack and clutching a handmade get-well card. "Daddy," she cried, rushing to his bedside. "You're awake." "I was so scared." David's eyes filled with tears as he hugged his daughter as tightly as his injuries would allow. "I'm okay, sweetheart." "I'm so sorry I scared you." Maya quietly stepped back to give them privacy, but Lily noticed her by the door. "Are you Miss Maya?" the little girl asked. "Mrs. Rodriguez told me you're the nurse who helped save my daddy." "Mrs. Rodriguez told you that?" Maya was confused for a moment until she realized Lily must be talking about someone from David's household staff. "She said you gave Daddy some of your own blood, because the hospital didn't have enough." Lily continued, looking at Maya with wide, admiring eyes. "That's like being a superhero." Maya laughed softly. "I'm definitely not a superhero. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time." David was watching this exchange with growing curiosity. Over the next few hours, as Lily chattered about school and showed him all the drawings she had made while he was unconscious, he found himself observing Maya more closely. She moved through the room with quiet efficiency, checking his monitors and medication with the kind of expertise that only came from years of experience. But it was the small things David noticed most. How she made sure Lily had a comfortable chair to sit in. How she brought Lily a juice box without being asked. How she patiently answered every one of Lily's many questions about the medical equipment. That evening, after Lily had gone home with Mrs. Rodriguez, David asked Maya to stay for a few minutes when she brought his dinner. "I want to thank you properly," he said. "What you did for me, giving your own blood to a complete stranger. That's not something most people would do." Maya shrugged, uncomfortable with the attention. "Like I said, any nurse would have—" "No," David interrupted gently. "I've been in enough hospitals over the years with my wife's illness, and then with some of Lily's health issues when she was younger. I've met a low t of nurses, and while most of them are good people, what you did was extraordinary." Maya didn't know what to say to that. She busied herself checking his IV line, trying to avoid his intense gaze. "Can I ask you something?" David said. "When you donated that blood, when was the last time you had eaten?" Maya's hand stilled on the IV tubing. Why do you ask?" "Because Tyler, the lab tech who took your blood, mentioned to Dr. Kim that you looked exhausted and undernourished. He was worried about you giving blood in that condition." Maya felt her face burning. "I was fine. I had some crackers on the bus." "Crackers on the bus," David repeated softly. Maya, can I ask you a personal question? And please, you can tell me to mind my own business if you want. Maya nodded reluctantly. Are you taking care of someone? A family member who needs medical care? The question hit so close to home that Maya felt her carefully maintained composure crack slightly. How did you? Because I recognized the look, David said quietly. I had the same look for 2 years while my wife was sick. Working extra shifts, skipping meals, wearing the same clothes until they fell apart. Also, I could pay for treatments that might help her get better. Maya sank into the visitor's chair, suddenly feeling every hour of sleep she had missed over the past few months. My mother. She needs dialysis and there's a procedure that could really help her. But insurance doesn't cover it all. David finished. $8,000, Maya said. The number that had been haunting her dreams. I've been working extra shifts, but it's not enough. I keep thinking there has to be a way, but I can't figure out what it is. David was quiet for a long moment. Maya, what's your mother's name? Carmen. Carmen Rodriguez. And you've been taking care of her while working here full-time? Maya nodded. She took care of me my whole life. She worked 2 jobs to put me through nursing school. Now it's my turn. That's why you looked so tired when you donated blood, David said, understanding dawning in his voice. You've been running yourself into the ground trying to take care of everyone else. Someone has to, Maya said simply. David stared at the ceiling for a while, thinking. Finally, he looked back at Maya. Can I tell you something about myself? Something that might sound crazy given that we just met? Maya nodded. I own a company called Chen Technologies. We develop software for hospitals and medical facilities. The irony isn't lost on me that I make my living helping hospitals run more efficiently, and then I end up needing one to save my life. Maya's eyes widened. Chen Technologies was huge. She had heard doctors and administrators at City General talking about their software systems. The point is, David continued, I've been very fortunate in business, more fortunate than any one person deserves to be. And 3 days ago, when I was bleeding out in that car, all the money in the world couldn't help me, but you could. You gave me something more valuable than anything I could ever buy. Mr. Chen, I didn't know who you were when I donated that blood. I would have done it for anyone. I know, David said, smiling for the first time since he had woken up. That's exactly why I want to help you. Maya stared at David, not sure how to respond to his offer of help. Part of her wanted to accept immediately. The weight of her mother's medical bills had been crushing her for months. But another part of her, the part that had been raised by Carmen Rodriguez to be proud and self-reliant, rebelled against the idea of taking money from a stranger. Mr. Chen, I appreciate the offer. I really do. But I can't take your money. I was just doing my job. David smiled patiently. What if I told you I wasn't offering charity? What if there was something you could do for me in return? Before Maya could ask what he meant, Dr. Kim entered the room for evening rounds. The conversation was put on hold, but Maya could feel David's eyes on her as she went about her duties. There was something different about the way he watched her work now, like he was studying her. Over the next few days, as David grew stronger, Maya noticed he had become more observant of everything happening around his room. When she brought medication to the elderly man in the bed next to his, David watched as she patiently explained each pill and helped the confused patient understand why he needed to take them. When a frightened teenager was brought in after a skateboard accident, David saw Maya stay an extra 20 minutes past her shift to calm the boy's nerves and call his parents. On Friday evening, Maya was finishing her shift when she found David sitting up in bed, looking much better than he had since the accident. His color had returned completely, and the doctors were talking about releasing him early next week. Maya, do you have a minute to talk? He asked as she checked his chart one last time. Sure, but just a quick one. I need to catch the 11:30 bus home. You take the bus to work every day? Maya nodded, gathering her things from the bedside table where she had left them. Sold my car last year. The bus takes a little longer, but it saves me about $300 a month on payments and insurance. David filed that information away with everything else he had observed about Maya over the past week. Maya, I've been thinking about our conversation the other day, about your mother. Maya's shoulders tensed slightly. Mr. Chen, I told you I can't accept. Hear me out, David said gently. I've been watching you work this week, and I've had a lot of time to think. Do you know what I've noticed? Maya shook her head, checking the time on the wall clock. Every patient on this floor lights up when they see you coming. Mrs. Patterson in 302. Told me yesterday that you're the only nurse who remembers she likes her ice chips crushed, not whole. The teenager in 308 said you brought him a comic book from home because you noticed he was bored. And old Mr. Williams down the hall told me you stayed late 3 nights this week to help him call his grandson because he couldn't figure out how to work his phone. Maya felt her cheeks getting warm. Those are little things. Little things that you do after working 12-hour shifts, when you're exhausted and probably haven't eaten a real meal all day. Maya looked at the floor, uncomfortable with the attention. Maya, I run a company with over 500 employees. I know good work when I see it. But more than that, I know good people when I see them, and you're not just good at your job. You care about every single person you help. Where are you going with this? Maya asked quietly. David reached for his phone on the bedside table. I made some calls this week. I spoke with Dr. Kim, with Janet the supervisor, with some of your patients. I wanted to understand what kind of person gives their own blood to save a stranger. Maya's heart started beating faster. You investigated me? I researched you, David corrected. And what I found was someone who graduated nursing school with honors while working part-time to help support her mother. Someone who has never missed a shift in 3 years, who volunteers for overtime whenever it's available, and who somehow finds time to care for her patients like their family members. Maya didn't know what to say. She had never thought of her work as anything special. She just did what needed to be done. Maya, I want to offer you a job. A job? Maya blinked in surprise. Mr. Chen, I already have a job. I'm a nurse, I know. But I want to offer you a different job. Chen Technologies has been looking for someone to head up our employee wellness program. We've grown so fast over the past few years that we've realized we need someone who understands healthcare to help us take better care of our people. Maya stared at him. You want me to leave nursing? Not entirely. The position would involve working with healthcare providers, setting up wellness programs, making sure our employees have access to good medical care. You'd use your nursing knowledge, but in a different way. Maya shook her head. Mr. Chen, I don't know anything about corporate wellness programs. I don't have business experience in white, but you have something more valuable, David said. You understand what it means to care about people's health and well-being. You know what good medical care looks like because you provide it every day. Maya glanced at the clock again. She was going to miss her bus if she didn't leave soon, which meant waiting another hour for the next one. The salary would be $85,000 a year, David continued, plus full health benefits for you and your mother. And there would be opportunities for overtime if you wanted extra income. Maya felt like someone had just hit her in the chest. $85,000 was almost 3 times what she made at the hospital. With that kind of money, she could pay for her mother's procedure and still have enough left over to maybe even rent a 2-bedroom apartment. I need time to think about this, Maya managed to say. Of course. Take all the time you need. But Maya, there's something else. Maya waited, not trusting herself to speak. Regardless of whether you take the job or not, I want to help with your mother's medical expenses. Consider it a debt I owe you for saving my life, Mr. Chen. David, and before you say no, let me ask you something. If the situation were reversed, if your daughter needed something and a stranger offered to help because you had helped them, would you want your daughter to be too proud to accept? Maya thought about her mother, about Carmen working 2 jobs to put her through school, never complaining, always sacrificing. Would Carmen want Maya to refuse help if it meant she could get better? I don't know, Maya said honestly. Think about it over the weekend, David said. Talk to your mother, about it. I'm being discharged on Monday, but here's my card. Call me when you've made a decision. Maya took the business card with trembling fingers. It was thick, expensive paper with David's name embossed in gold letters. David Chen, CEO, Chen Technologies. Maya, David said as she turned to leave. Whatever you decide about the job, please don't let pride keep your mother from getting the care she needs. Life is too short and too precious to waste on pride. As Maya hurried toward the bus stop, David's words echoed in her mind. She had spent so many months focused on working harder, on finding ways to earn more money through extra shifts and overtime. She had never imagined that help might come from such an unexpected source. When she got home that night, Carmen was waiting up for her with a cup of tea and a worried expression. Mija, you look like you've seen a ghost. What happened? Maya sat down at the kitchen table and told her mother everything. About donating blood to David, about learning he was a CEO, about his job offer and his want to help with the medical expenses. When she finished, Carmen was quiet for a long moment. What does your heart tell you to do? Her mother finally asked. Maya looked at the business card still clutched in her hand. I don't know, Mama, I really don't know. Maya spent the entire weekend thinking about David's offer. She walked around her small apartment, made lists of pros and cons, and had long conversations with her mother. On Saturday morning, Carmen had to practically force Maya to sit down and eat breakfast. Mija, you're wearing a hole in the floor with all that pacing, Carmen said, setting a plate of eggs in front of her daughter. Talk to me. What's really bothering you about this? Maya pushed the eggs around her plate. It feels wrong, Mama. Taking money from a patient. What if people think I donated blood because I knew he was rich? Carmen reached across the table and took Maya's hand. Sweetheart, you didn't know who he was when you gave that blood. You saw someone who needed help and you helped them. That's who you are. That's who I raised you to be. But what if I take this job and I'm not good at it? I don't know anything about running corporate wellness programs. You know about taking care of people, Carmen said firmly. You've been doing it your whole life. First with me, then with your patients. This Mr. Chen, he's not offering you this job because he feels sorry for you. He's offering it because he sees what I see. A young woman who cares about others and works hard to help them. On Sunday evening, Maya was still torn. She had looked up Chen Technologies online and learned that David hadn't exaggerated about his company's success. They had contracts with major hospitals across the country, and their employee reviews talked about great benefits and a caring work environment. Her phone rang around 8 p.m. She expected it to be the hospital calling about a shift change, but it was an unfamiliar number. Hello, is this Miss Maya? The voice was small and young. Lily? Is that you? How did you get my number? Daddy gave it to me. He said I could call to say thank you for helping him. Miss Maya, Daddy told me you saved his life by giving him some of your blood. Is that true? Maya's heart melted at the sincerity in the little girl's voice. I just did what any nurse would do, sweetheart. But Daddy says not everyone would do that. He says you're very special, Lily paused. Miss Maya, are you going to come work with Daddy? He's been talking about it all weekend. He says he really hopes you'll say yes. I'm still thinking about it, Lily. I hope you say yes too. Daddy needs more people around him who are as nice as you are. And maybe you could meet my guinea pig, Mr. Whiskers. After Maya hung up, she found herself smiling for the first time all weekend. She looked at her mother, who had been listening to the conversation with a knowing expression. That little girl thinks the world of you already, Carmen observed. She's a sweet kid. She's been through a lot, losing her mother so young. Carmen nodded thoughtfully. Maya, let me ask you something. If you don't take this job, what happens? Maya sighed. I keep working at the hospital. I pick up more overtime shifts. Maybe I find a second job on my days off. Eventually, maybe I save up enough for your procedure. And how long would that take? Maybe a year? Maybe longer? Carmen was quiet for a moment. And what happens to me while we're waiting a year? The question hit Maya hard because she knew the answer. Without the procedure, her mother's kidney function would continue to decline. The dialysis would become more frequent, more exhausting. Carmen would get sicker while Maya worked herself to death trying to save money that seemed impossible to earn. Mama, Mija, I've lived long enough to know that sometimes angels come in unexpected forms. This Mr. Chen, maybe he's an angel. Maybe this is God's way of helping us. On Monday morning, Maya called the hospital and asked for a personal day. Instead of going to work, she took the bus downtown to Chen Technologies' office building. It was a gleaming tower of glass and steel that made her feel very small in her simple dress and worn shoes. The receptionist called David's office, and within minutes he appeared in the lobby. He looked completely different in a business suit, but his smile was the same warm one she remembered from the hospital. Maya, I wasn't expecting to see you here. How are you? I wanted to talk to you about your offer, Maya said. In person. David led her to his office on the 20th floor with windows that looked out over the entire city. Maya had never been so high up in a building before. Can I get you some coffee, water? David asked. I'm okay, thank you. Maya sat in one of the comfortable chairs across from his desk. Mr. Chen, David, I've been thinking about what you said all weekend. And, Maya took a deep breath, I want to accept your help with my mother's medical expenses. But I want to earn it by doing the job you offered me. David's face lit up. Really? You'll take the position? If you're serious about it. But I need to be honest with you, I'm scared. I've never worked anywhere but the hospital. I don't know if I can do what you need me to do. Maya, do you remember what you told me when I asked if I was going to be okay after the accident? Maya thought back to that chaotic night in the ER. I told you that you were going to be fine, but it would take time and hard work to recover. Exactly. And you were right. Learning a new job is the same way. It takes time and hard work, but I believe you can do it. And more importantly, I think you'll be great at it. Maya felt tears starting in her eyes. When would I start? Whenever you're ready. We'll need to give the hospital proper notice. I don't want to leave them short-staffed. 2 weeks? Maya nodded. David, I need to ask you something, and please be honest. Are you doing this because you feel guilty about the accident? Because you think you owe me something? David was quiet for a moment, considering his answer carefully. Do I feel grateful to you for saving my life? Absolutely. Do I think this company would benefit from having someone with your skills and dedication? Also absolutely. But Maya, the reason I'm offering you this job is because I watched you work for a week and I saw something special. You have a gift for caring about people, and I want that gift to help my employees. 2 weeks later, Maya worked her last shift at City General Hospital. Mrs. Patterson cried when Maya told her she was leaving, and Dr. Kim shook her hand and told her she would be missed. But I'm happy for you, Dr. Kim added. You deserve this opportunity. Maya's first day at Chen Technologies was overwhelming. The office was bright and modern, with a cafeteria that served free lunch and a fitness center in the basement. Her new colleagues were friendly and welcoming, though Maya felt out of place in her new business clothes. David introduced her to everyone as their new director of employee wellness, and Maya tried not to let her nervousness show. The best part of her first week was Friday afternoon when Lily came to the office after school. David often brought her to work when her after-school program was canceled, and Lily remembered Maya immediately. Miss Maya, Daddy said you work here now. Lily ran over and hugged Maya's legs. Want to meet Mr. Whiskers? I brought him in his travel cage. As Maya knelt down to admire Lily's guinea pig, she caught David watching them with a soft smile on his face. 3 months later, Carmen's kidney procedure was a complete success. The surgery was performed at the best hospital in the city, with no expense spared. Maya was able to take a week off work to care for her mother during recovery, something that would have been impossible with her old job. How are you feeling, Mama? Maya asked on Carmen's first day back home. Like a new person, Carmen said, her color better than it had been in years. Mija, I'm so proud of you. Look what you've built from one act of kindness. Maya looked around their new 2-bedroom apartment with its bright windows and modern kitchen. She thought about her new job, which challenged her every day, but also fulfilled her in ways she hadn't expected. She thought about the employee wellness program she was developing, and how good it felt to help people stay healthy, instead of just treating them when they got sick. Most of all, she thought about the friendship that had grown between her family and David's family. Sunday dinners had become a tradition, with Carmen teaching Lily how to cook Mexican food while David and Maya discussed work projects. You know what the funny thing is, Mama? Maya said. I thought I was saving his life that night, but I think maybe he saved mine too. Carmen smiled and patted her daughter's hand. Sometimes that's how it works, Mija. Sometimes when you help someone else, you end up helping yourself. That evening, as Maya sat at her computer working on a presentation for the next week, her phone buzzed with a text from David. Lily wants to know if you and your mom want to come to her school play next Friday. She's playing a tree, and she says it won't be the same without her favorite people in the audience. Maya smiled and texted back, "We wouldn't miss it for the world." As she looked out her new apartment window at the city lights, Maya reflected on how much had changed in just 6 months. One decision to help a stranger had transformed everything, not just for her, but for her mother, for David, and for Lily too. Sometimes, Maya realized, the most ordinary moments led to the most extraordinary changes. And sometimes, when you gave someone the gift of life, they gave you the gift of a future you never imagined possible.